I took a day off from work to get everything ready around the house for the holidays. Our daughter Casey was supposed to be home from college tomorrow. Casey is a senior. My wife and I look forward to this holiday homecoming every year. We haven't seen Casey since we visited her school in October. Diana, my wife, has been working a lot of overtime the past few months. The company she works for is considering buying one of its competitors. Diana is the project manager responsible for due diligence. Her report to the board of directors will help determine the purchase price. It's a big responsibility that requires long hours and multiple trips to the target company's headquarters in Phoenix. It was a difficult 4 months for Diana and for me. I miss my wife. We usually close Casey's bedroom door after she leaves in the fall. There's really no reason to use the room. I decided to dust and vacuum the room before making her bed. I lifted the duvet cover so it wouldn't get caught in the vacuum cleaner, and then I saw this. Leaning forward, I prayed that it was just a popped party balloon, but as I got closer, I realized it wasn't. My next thought was disappointment. She didn't have a regular boyfriend. Was this one of those friends with benefits young people talk about these days? I'm no expert on these things, but this thing must have been used no more than a week or two ago. I was dizzy, and I'm sure I screamed loudly, "What is happening?" I had to sit down on the bed for a minute. This could only mean one thing, but the thought that my Diana was cheating was beyond my understanding. We were married for 22 years, and she never once gave me any reason to worry about her fidelity. Of course, she's 43 years old and guys still hit on her. The only small wrinkles on her face are laugh lines. She worries that they are aging her. I told her that they only enhance her natural beauty. She smiled that smile and kissed me when I said it. Her body is as toned as it was when we got married. Before this damn project, Diana spent 3 days a week in the gym. Last spring, we took 2 weeks and went to the Bahamas. Diana attracted the attention of men. I shook the cobwebs out of my head and went to the kitchen to get a plastic bag. I hid the evidence in a bag, the bag in an envelope, and then hid it in the bottom of the freezer in the garage. That's the only thing I could think of. Save evidence just in case. I didn't even want to think about the consequences of this. Divorce? Will I be able to forgive Diana? What if she doesn't want forgiveness? What if she's in love with this guy? I was completely out of my element. It came out of nowhere. Like a robot on automatic, I went upstairs and finished tidying up Casey's bedroom. Having made the bed, I was not one step closer to the plan of action. I called my brother and asked if he had time to meet me for lunch. Dave works in the city. Judging by his voice, he was glad to hear from me and glad to get out of his office for lunch when I said I was treating him. Dave and I were sitting in a booth. I leaned forward and lowered my voice. "Dave, this won't lead to anything. This only applies to you and me, understand?" "Of course, Al. What's happening?" I told Dave what I had discovered. He sat with his mouth open. "Al, I can't believe this. Not Diana. She loves you, man." That's what I thought. But how else can I explain what I discovered? Only the two of us live in the house. The only guests we had all fall were the Johnsons, and they stayed in the guest room. I don't think they would have snuck into Casey's room. "What are you going to do?" "I think I'm going to meet Diana face to face when she gets home tonight. I can't imagine acting like nothing happened." No, don't do that. Confronting her without evidence is the last thing you should do." "Why not?" "Let me tell you why not. 2 months ago, I came home from work early. As I walked in, I could have sworn I heard the door at the back of the house close. At first, I thought it was Janet coming out the back door and headed towards the kitchen, but then I heard her calling me from upstairs. I stood up and saw Janet in a robe. I asked her what was going on. Did I catch her doing this? I was angry. Janet was unstuck. She screamed at me for a couple of minutes. How could I blame her, the mother of our children, for such a thing? She blasted me for thinking that. It was freezing cold in the house until she finally let me out of the kennel. Certainly, I still suspected. I didn't let her know. But after that, I kept my eyes wide open. I don't know if Janet realizes this. I hope not, but I've been making a checklist for the last 2 months. What kind of checklist is this? Check her closet, check her phone, check the bedroom for signs of cheating. A couple of times I came home unexpectedly for lunch. I paid closer attention to Janet's appearance. Any changes in her behavior, any changes in our sex life. Where the hell did you get that checklist? I found it on the internet. It's amazing what's there. I just Googled cheating wife and all sorts of crap came up, including a checklist. During this entire conversation, our waitress came and went, taking our order, bringing our lunch, bringing our check. Throughout it all, I caught her listening. Finally, when she brought our check, she leaned over and spoke. I caught my boyfriend checking his phone. He and his mistress maintained a constant stream of messages. He tried to deny it, but it was too much. I left him. I left the restaurant not knowing what I was going to do. I sat in the office and listened to Rachmaninoff. Classics always calm me down and help me think. Was there any other evidence of infidelity? Anything but one piece of evidence? Of course, Diana worked late. I returned home late at night and even went to the office on Saturdays. There were trips out of town. What did Dave say? Has behavior changed? It dawned on me. Last month, Diana changed our bedroom layout quite a bit. That was a month ago, and until today's conversation with my brother over lunch, it never occurred to me that Diana was doing this for anyone other than me. It's time to do another investigation. Diana will be home in a couple of hours, so there's no better time to start than now. First, I searched her wardrobe, rummaging through boxes and bags. Nothing fancy except a new bikini in a bag from Nordstrom that still had the tags on it. Could this be what she wears for him in Phoenix? I'd definitely look for it the next time she's out of town. Then I looked in her drawers. Again, nothing I haven't seen before. No new frilly underwear, no nightgowns, no short dresses or tops, which I haven't seen on her. By the time I finished my search, it was time to cook dinner. It was salad night, so it was easy. I opened a bottle of Burgundy Pinot Noir and sat in the kitchen, waiting for Diana to return. When she walked through the door 15 minutes later, I couldn't believe that this was the woman I suspected of cheating on me. She practically dropped her briefcase on the floor, hugged me, and kissed me deeply. Then I felt the taste of wine on her lips. I'm so happy to be home. 2 weeks with my family. I handed in my report this afternoon. It's finished. I hope you don't mind. I took my team across the road to the Met and bought drinks. I had to thank them all for their hard work. I drank 1 glass of wine and immediately went home. She kissed me again. Oh, honey, I've missed you so much these past few months. I hugged her waist and pulled her towards me. I missed you too. Does this mean you won't have work for the next 2 weeks? No work? I hope so, but I wouldn't be surprised if a question or two doesn't come up and I have to take the call. If I'm lucky, I won't have to leave. I promise to keep this to a minimum. I'm looking forward to 2 weeks with you and Casey. She called. I talked to her this morning. Her flight lands at 11 and we'll pick her up. Does she have plans for tomorrow evening? We were talking about it. She will have dinner with us. She looks forward to home-cooked food. Then after dinner, she meets with friends. She said we would spend the entire Sunday afternoon catching up. Diana and I had a wonderful evening. We drank wine and almost the second bottle, ate a salad, drank 2 cognacs, and talked the whole time. I almost forgot about my suspicions while we were talking. At 9:30, Diana was tipsy and couldn't stop yawning. Let's go to bed. I need to get some sleep. Diana fell asleep as soon as her head hit the pillow. I stayed up to read. An hour later, she fell into a deep sleep, and I did something I had never done before. I reached over and grabbed her phone from the nightstand, pressing the button to open it. It was blocked. After that, it took at least 2 hours to fall asleep. The waitress's words haunted my thoughts. I caught my boyfriend while I was checking his phone. Diana got up before me. and I smelled the coffee brewing. I entered the kitchen. "Good morning, sleepyhead. How long have you been up? I'm sorry I ignored you. I didn't realize how exhausted I was. I'll make it up to you when Casey goes out with his friends this evening. I promise." Here she is again, so cute. Are these the words of a cheating spouse? But still, why is her phone blocked? I decided to try a trick that came to me at 1 in the morning. I took Diana's phone from the kitchen table. "Diana, I need to call Sandra's husband about that fishing rod that he put up for sale. Can I get her number from your contact list?" Sandra was one of Diana's employees, and her husband was an avid fly fisherman. I didn't wait for Diana's answer. I just pressed a button that said the phone was locked. "Diana, the phone is locked. When did you start blocking him?" "The password is the same as our garage door, 4002. I started locking it ever since I returned to my desk and found Kevin looking at the photos on my phone. I left my phone on my desk while I was in a meeting, came back, and the little spy was holding the phone in his hands and rummaging through my gallery. He was so close," Diana spread 2 fingers a couple of centimeters apart, "from being fired. And so he has a warning in his personal file. 1 more rule violation and he'll be out. I probably didn't tell you because it was a personnel matter, and you and I always treated it as confidential information." I pressed 4002 while Diana was talking, and the phone opened. "I would fire him. You're too lenient." "I probably would have done that, but his wife just had a baby. I hope he takes advantage of his second chance." "Good luck with that." I wrote down Sandra's mobile number and had to call later, just to continue my story about the fishing rod. Of course, I can always use another fishing rod. I didn't hang up. "So, what's so interesting about the photos in your gallery that this guy almost got fired?" Diana laughed. "Wouldn't I like to know? There are no nude photos of my lover here, no selfies of me. Just a couple of photos from the flower show Janet and I went to last month, and some cute pictures of Casey that she sent last semester. Your wife is boring. No nude photos of your mistress." I couldn't believe she said that. I kept looking through her gallery, and she was telling the truth. Just photos of flowers and Casey. Who the hell is your mistress? I hope I asked that without sounding as annoyed as I felt. Diana laughed again. "Why do you ask? Stupid. Who else could it be? This woman is driving me crazy." We continued to chat about the dinner menu and whatever else while I continued to sneak through her text messages. Diana didn't pay attention, and I didn't find anything. We met Casey at the airport and spent the next 2 weeks on a wonderful family vacation. We went to the mountains and went skiing. We spent 3 days snowshoeing in the Methau Valley. We spent the night in a rented house just a few meters from the Chewich River. Diana answered several calls for work and spent only 1 day in the office. The mystery of the hidden bikini was solved when I opened my Christmas present from Diana. 2 tickets to the Bahamas for early March. And I have something special to wear while we're there. She confused the hell out of Casey when she picked up 2 small pieces of fabric. "Please, Mom. I probably would have forgotten this whole mystery with my find if it weren't for my brother. I mean, Diana did nothing but shower me with love and affection during those 2 weeks. Diana and I threw a party to which many of our neighbors were invited. My brother was there with his wife, Janet. They lived in the next block with their 2 teenage twin boys. I like most of our neighbors. We have one of the few neighborhoods in Seattle where people actually take the time to get to know their neighbors and talk to them. There were about 12 couples in our house that evening. There was one of the few neighbors I couldn't stand, Ed Parker. The only reason he was invited was his wife, Sylvia. She is such a nice lady that Diana insisted that we invite them, even though Parker was a braggart and a flirt. Not a fun flirt, but one of those jerks you want to keep away from your wife because you know he'd sleep with her if your wife had the bad taste to let him. During a party, Ed Parker drank too much and began to lose his tongue. He and Hank Jones went out to smoke on the patio, since there is no tobacco in our house. Diana has a hard time with him on the street, and Ed has been bragging to Hank about some of the wonderful ladies in the neighborhood. Dave peed in the restroom. The window was slightly open and Dave could hear Ed's words. It didn't go far because Hank was tired of Ed's boasting. He put out his cigarette and returned to the house. The fact is that since Ed was fired from his job at the bank, he was the house husband, and Sylvia brought home the salary. So, if there's one guy who has the time, opportunity, and inclination to sleep with any of the neighborhood wives, it's Ed Parker. The next day, Dave came over and relayed what he had overheard. I froze in bewilderment when Dave asked the question, "Al, do you think Ed Parker was the one who was in your house?" "Never. Damn it, I can't see Diana with that bastard. She knows I hate that idiot. She thinks he's an asshole, and besides, I don't think Diana is cheating on me." "But you're fine. How do you explain this?" "I don't know. I just don't think it's Diana." "Well, if it were me, I would need to know for sure. I couldn't live with a cheating wife." "Watch your language. Dave, you're talking about my wife." "Sorry anyway." Dave didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to finish for me to understand his point. "I thought about the find in the freezer. Can I take DNA from Diana and Ed to compare it with the DNA on the find? It seemed like a stretch. And will this be real evidence that I can use in court if push comes to shove?" I decided to do it easier. The next week, I was out of town for 4 days. If something went wrong, the two of them would take advantage of the situation. The salesman at the spy store was more than kind, probably because I walked out of the store with $100 worth of gear. I could install a small motion-sensitive camera in Casey's room. It would remain hidden among all the trinkets on her shelf. Same for the guest room, which now had a new clock radio with a camera inside. In our bedroom, it was more difficult. Anything new in the room would be noticed. I chose a voice-activated voice recorder hidden under my nightstand. This should have been enough. It's been a tough week, perhaps the longest in my life. I talked to Diana every night, and if anything happened, she was the greatest actress in the world. Nothing came out of her mouth other than "I love you" or "I miss you." On Friday, she took a day off from work and met me at the airport. We bought some Thai takeout from our favorite eatery and ate it at. The entire weekend was spent making up for my absence. Plus, unfortunately, Diana had to fly to Phoenix on Tuesday to officially sign the purchase agreement. I'm sorry that this couldn't be done while you were out of town. Lawyers only finished paperwork on Wednesday. By the time the ink was dry, the board had taken several days to organize the trip. I'm leaving Tuesday morning and will be back Wednesday evening. There's nothing you can do. I just hope this is the last big project for you this year. You really burned both ends of the candle. You did great, my love. I loved this woman so much that I spent that weekend hoping and praying that nothing would come of all the recordings. On Tuesday morning, Diana left for her flight at 6 in the morning. I poured myself a cup of coffee and settled into my office to review the cameras and voice recordings. I started with the most likely room, Casey's room. The image appeared immediately. The date and time are Wednesday at 1 p.m. Two adulterers entered the room. I was horrified to watch the destruction of at least one marriage, and possibly two. I had no idea how Sylvia would react to watching a copy of this video that I planned to share with her. I quickly scrolled through the scene. I didn't need to see the details, but I was curious to hear what the two were talking about. Nasty comments directed at their innocent spouses. So I rewinded, stopped, looked, and listened, then fast-forwarded again. "Why don't you take the pills?" "Because hubby has reformed, and I don't want to risk him finding out that I'm taking tablets. And I don't want to risk getting pregnant. I was worried like crazy when my twins were born, just waiting for them to be born to make sure they were his. If they turned out to be half Asian, all hell would break loose. This was the last time I made the mistake of getting involved with someone of a different race." "How many men have you slept with while you're married?" My daughter-in-law was indignant. Janet pushed him away and answered his question. "Not that it's any of your business, but you're third." I love the way my husband takes care of me and the twins. We have a good life, but he only meets some of my needs. That's why we need to be careful. He almost caught us in October. This is the last time west of my place, and since your wife comes and goes all day, this is the safest option. Until my niece comes home, it would be difficult to explain. I called Dave at work and asked him to come over after dinner. He came, and it didn't go very well. He cried for a while, and we drank too much. I called Janet and told her that Dave would sleep it off at our house. I didn't tell her what triggered the overindulgence, and she didn't ask. I won't describe everything. Dave and I took Wednesday off. After he recovered from his hangover, we went to my lawyer's office and spoke with their family specialist. Dave filed the divorce papers. Something didn't go the way she wanted. The twins turned 14 and decided to live with his father. I was prepared for them to hear, rather than see, their mother's confession of betrayal of their father. Fortunately, this was not necessary. The boys chose to stay with their father. Because Dave wanted to take the boys, the judge gave him possession of the house. He was supposed to pay Janet maintenance for 2 years, but for those 2 years, it was only $1,200 a month. Sylvia divorced Ed using the video I gave her. She stayed in the house, and he left. Thank God, because Dave was looking for him. I heard that Janet tried to get Ed to move in with her, but Ed said he wouldn't have anything to do with a cheating woman. Diane and I did everything we could to help Dave get through the drama of that first year. Diana was especially helpful with her 2 godsons. They both depended on her as a companion. Even Casey helped out with her cousins. After graduating in May, she spent the summer, her last stay with us before moving to Portland in September, giving advice from a woman's point of view. I'm getting ahead of myself a little. I have to tell you what I found on the other video and on the recorder. Nothing. Well, no big deal, and in fact, the voice recorder in our bedroom did record a few of Diana's phone calls. At least half of the calls were during my business trip. Diana talked to her mom, Casey, and her boss. I won't go into details. Let's just say this woman loves me and I have nothing to worry about. She seems to think I'm a pretty great guy. I never told Diana about my suspicions. It's better to leave some things alone. Of course, she now knew about the camera in Casey's room. I made up an explanation. Told her I suspected Janet had used the key she had to our house to meet Ed. I just needed to prove it. Diana seemed to buy this explanation until it's been almost a month since all this shit came out. Dinner was over, and Diana and I had an after-dinner drink and relaxed, reading in the living room. Suddenly, Diana looked up from her book. You thought I was cheating on you. Oh shit. I sat, looking like the proverbial deer caught in the headlights. Diana sat in her chair, staring at me, waiting for my answer. Baby, come here on the sofa. Let me tell you a story. I explained the circumstances. All this lay on one side of the scale. Then I told her that all this time I never truly believed that she could cheat on our marriage. Despite all these strange facts and circumstances, she was not that kind of woman. Diana looked at me. I could see that she was struggling to understand. That's the kind of woman she is. She hugged my neck and said the magic words. Alec, honey, I could never do this to us. I love you. And that was the end of it. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.